Welcome to Ask Ron number 48, which means Ask Ron is now caught up to my actual age. September, I'll be 49 years old. You can start thinking up good gifts for me now. You still have a couple months to get something really nice, you know. Doing this one, first thing I want to talk about is, even though Toronto Pro is well over a week past now, I still want to clear up something. Boston Lloyd, who actually I'm on good terms with, despite what people think, because the show that Boston had on MD didn't work out. It was too controversial for us. We felt legally it would have caused a lot of problems for us with some of the things he was saying. But anyway, that's got nothing to do with it. Me and Boston are still cool. He just had a baby. I wish him the best. But he texted me and said, "Is it true Juan Morel got in your face in Toronto at the competitors meeting about things I'd said about his legs?" Not exactly. He did not get in my face. You know, I have nothing against Juan. Juan has nothing against me. He used to be an MD athlete. We did articles, columns, always got along well with him. He was really cool to work with. Juan's, you know, got a baby of his own, family man, married. Very good bodybuilder, obviously. So I had said in probably a couple different play-by-plays where he was competing that I believed his right leg was smaller than his left. And I was just saying what I was I was reporting on what I was looking at. I call it like I see it. You know, I would never just fabricate something like that out of thin air to be mean to somebody or to try to make the judges think there was an imbalance. I mean, judges have extremely trained eyes. This is all they do is scrutinize excellent physiques, picking them apart. So if somebody's got an imbalance, they're going to pick up on it. They don't need some schmuck like me to, in a play-by-play, to call attention to it. They're gonna see it for themselves. So I walk into the competitors meeting, which was already in progress. Full disclosure, I didn't even know what was going on. I had been in Toronto all day. It took me a while waiting around for my hotel, which was a block or two away. Very nice hotel. Too nice for me, honestly, I think. What do I need an awesome hotel for? So I was going to get something to eat, and I said, well, you know, while I'm walking around, here's the host hotel, the Intercontinental, where all the athletes are staying. Maybe I'll see if I can get my press pass. It's already almost 7 o'clock at night. It's probably, there's nobody over there who can give me my press pass. I'll just get it tomorrow morning, but just in case, let me go see. So I'm walking through the corridor between the Intercontinental that goes right to the convention center. And I pass the room and I hear talking and I see all a bunch of athletes in there. I'm like, oh shit, it's a competitor meeting. Clearly, I should have known about this and should have prepared and been there for it, but I ended up being there and not missing much. I missed all the women checking in, unfortunately, but I did see all the open men, 212 and classic physique guys check in and got a lot of pictures for the MD paparazzi pics thread. But I walk in and, you know, I'm trying to be as inconspicuous as possible because I'm obviously late getting there, not trying to draw attention to myself. So I go in the back and there's only a couple seats open. It's not a huge meeting room. And Juan's back there with his wife and his baby girl. And I sit next to Juan. And he immediately starts, you know, questioning me about that because it's a concern. And I said, yeah, I think your right leg's smaller. And he pulls out his phone. I said, show me some pictures. Show me like front relax, whatever. He showed me a bunch of pictures and from the New York Pro, which had been 2 weeks before. And I will say it, he's right. His legs are both identical. They're not, there's not an imbalance. It's the way he flares it out, he turns it, he makes it look different from the other leg. The way he positions it in a lot of his shots. So to my eye, that made it look smaller. And I don't think that was his intention, was to make one of his legs look smaller. But he said, you know, he likes the way it looks when he positions the leg like that. And he mentioned that Cedric does the same thing. I'm like, you know, whatever. So that being said, I admit I was wrong. Juan Morel's legs are both the same size. That being said, I'm not a fan of his legs, his quads, I should say. From the side, his hamstrings are amazing. They have the sweep to them and they have these crazy splinter details. And Juan got into great condition for both New York Pro and then even sharper for Toronto Pro. So props to him for really a big man of, you know, over 260 pounds on stage, probably closer to 270, in excellent condition. That being said, don't like his quads for this reason. There is not a lot of development down by the knee, around the knee. You know, the vastus medialis, the teardrop, doesn't have much there. The vastus lateralis, the sweep, there's not much development in the lower half of the thigh. So it's this, what I call turnip. Vince Aranda, the late Vince Aranda, used to call it turnip thighs, where there was a lot of development up top and then not very much down the bottom. Vince thought that was from squats, so he wouldn't let people squat at his gym, Vince's gym. True story. You weren't allowed to squat at that gym. You weren't allowed to do flat bench presses either. You could do bench presses to the neck, which he did believe in, and inclines, and he loved those wide grip dips for chest, but he would not let you flat bench in his gym, and you could not squat. This is a true story. Vince's gym in North Hollywood. Anyway, back to Juan. So, yeah, he does not have much development in that lower half of the thigh, the quad of that portion of his quadriceps, and he's not the only one. There have been guys in the past who are excellent bodybuilders. Vince Taylor comes to mind. Even Flex Wheeler, if you look at pictures of him, he didn't have a tremendous amount of fullness and thickness around the knee. When you think of some guys who had tremendous thickness around that area, like Mike Francois, Paul DeMeo, Tom Platz, Branch Warren, Kai Green, that's a much more impressive quad to me because it's full and round from the kneecap all the way to where it originates at the hips. It's a big sweeping quad. That's to me, that's the way a quad should look. So I'm conceding that I was wrong about an imbalance, but I still maintain that I think Juan's physique would be much more complete. He would probably be doing better at the bigger shows at the level of the Mr. Olympia, for instance, if he had more development down there. Now, next thing I need to say is everyone was saying Akim Williams was robbed. Akim Williams was robbed. Juan Morel only won because he had taken second in New York, and like they were doing this as a favor to him. You know, at the time after the show, I felt that Akim should have won. After having time to really analyze more pictures and videos, and I'll be honest, I'm going to give credit to Nick from Nick's Strength and Power. He did a pretty good breakdown analysis of why Akim wasn't robbed, and I agree with pretty much everything he said. Akim was in amazing condition for Akim. Was he in amazing condition, equal or better condition than Juan? No, he was not. Juan was still sharper. And another thing that he pointed out, I think it's not a secret. Sorry. Akim's back is just not up to par with the rest of them. You know, so neither one of them are perfect. Juan could use better quads. Akim could use a better back. Juan was in better condition. You know, what do you do when you got two guys who are really great? They have, each one has something the other one doesn't. They have different flaws, if you want to call them that. That's why I say judging is a hard job. It's hard. I would not want to be a judge because no matter what you decide at the end of the day, you're still going to have a lot of people really upset at you. If Akim had won, a lot of people would have been happy. A lot of people, I guarantee you, a lot of people would have been upset that Juan didn't win. I guarantee you. Because he was in better condition and he's got a better back. You know, he's got a great physique in his own right. He just has a more detail, more muscle maturity, and it comes down to condition too, obviously. But upon further analysis, and I'm not saying this kiss anyone's ass, because I don't care. I get along great with all these guys, or I try to. I have nothing personal against any of them. Whether they like me or they don't like me, it doesn't matter. I'm looking at physiques, and I comment on what I'm looking at, and I call it like I see it, whether that's going to make people happy or unhappy with me. I have to do that. That's my job, and I don't know any other way to be. So hopefully that leaves it all. So Juan, Akim, both of you guys, much respect. You both looked amazing. You know, nobody's perfect. Nobody has a perfect physique. Nobody ever has had a perfect physique. You're all struggling for perfection. It's not easy. You get these guys who are all genetic freaks. They all work hard, and it comes down to splitting hairs to try to figure out who's going to win. So next thing I want to talk about is so many guys in classic physique division that don't belong in classic physique, and you don't see it as much at the pro level because if you've made it to the pros, you probably have a pretty quote unquote classic look to you. Now, what's a classic look? I'm just going to say it like this: wide shoulders, narrow waist, small joints, nice round muscle bellies. Think of like a smaller Flex Wheeler. I think Breon Ansley, who is the Olympia champ, he is probably and the Arnold Classic champ, he's probably the best poster boy for the classic physique look. That's what you should look like. You should be able to pull its vacuum. You should have, peaked biceps, sweeping tris, sweeping quads, little waists, flaring lats. It should be a really, really pretty aesthetic physique that flows, got really nice shape, nice lines, symmetry, harmony, balance, proportion. A beautiful physique. Not a huge physique, because that's bodybuilding. That's why we still have bodybuilding. We're always going to have bodybuilding because a lot of people will always want to just see massive muscles shredded to the bone and veins and striations and 23-inch arms and 35-inch quads. There's always going to be a demand for that, always. But what I see a lot of times at the national level, shows like the Team Universe, I think it's just called Universe now, USA, Nationals, North American, is a lot of guys who aren't really classic physique competitors, but they didn't succeed in bodybuilding, probably because they just weren't big enough, didn't have the right shape, but they find that they can meet the weight requirements to get into classic division, which are lower. I'm a little under 5'8" now. I could be as heavy as 182. That would be the limit for me. My last show, I was 205 at the 2013 Team Universe Masters, and all the way down to 201, really flat, depleted. Not a great look for me at the Masters Nationals 2 weeks later. So for me to go down another 20 pounds, basically, ain't gonna happen. And regardless, even if I could, I don't have a classic look. I don't have a narrow waist. I don't have really round, full muscle bellies, tiny joints. I don't have one of those really pretty physiques. I'm a great poser. I'll say it. I know how to present myself. I can do a great posing routine. I have great stage presence because I've worked on that for many, many, many years, a lot of practice. But I don't have a classic physique. So I wouldn't think for a minute that I should be a classic physique pro. But a lot of guys, a lot of failed bodybuilders, guys who've tried and tried and tried to turn pro at bodybuilding, now they're trying to turn pro as classic physique competitors. And you know what? Do what you, like I always say, it's your life. Do what you want. I can't tell anyone what to do, and I'm not here to say they can't do this. People can do whatever they want. They can enter whatever division they're qualified to enter. But that being said, classic physique is supposed to be about pretty physiques. It's not supposed to be you have an ugly physique that just wasn't big enough for bodybuilding, and now you think that ugly physique with a thick waist and torn muscles and one arm's bigger, one leg's bigger, and one smaller, and if you have what I call an ugly physique, and I'm just being real here. Some people have pretty physiques. Some people have ugly physiques. If you have an ugly physique, maybe you'll luck out and become a classic pro, but I doubt it. I really doubt it. The first year that Classic came out, some guys really lucked out, really got lucky. They showed up at a couple pro qualifiers throughout that first year, 2016. And, the division was brand new. There weren't a lot of people trying it out yet. So some guys got in there that had no business. They're just failed bodybuilders. They were too small. They tried and tried and tried to succeed for years and years as bodybuilders and could not. Didn't have great shape, didn't have a lot of mass. You can get in bodybuilding, sometimes you can definitely get away with doing very well if you have tons and tons of mass and you can get into great condition, even if you have kind of a funky structure, not a very pleasing physique. If you're freaky enough, sometimes that'll be enough to get you through. But if you have less than ideal structure, your shape's not that great, and you don't have much mass either, I don't know, dude. I don't know. Competing's not for you. But whatever. So there's a lot of guys out there who are entering classic strictly because they feel that because they meet the height and weight requirements or are able to get down to that weight, that this is where they should compete. And like I said, maybe they'll get very, very lucky and hit a very weak class. Maybe they'll be the only ones in condition. Everyone else is way off or something. Uh, you know, it is a lot of luck. Sometimes you get weak classes, and if you're the only one that's in really good condition, and there's no one that's that great, maybe you'll win and you'll turn pro. Then what do you do as a pro? You know, I know a lot of guys just getting the pro card, that's the end game. They're very happy to do that, and I can totally relate to that. Trust me, because you know I started competing in 1989, and I watched so many people turn pro, and especially over the last 10 years, a lot of women in my area that I know that are good, but were they spectacular? No, and they turned pro. So I'm like, you know what, I should be a pro. But anyway, so that's my little rant on classic. Classic physique division is supposed to embody aesthetics, symmetry, proportion. If you're just some guy that has an ugly physique, you know, shit structure, big clunky joints, torn muscles, and you're just not big enough to be a good bodybuilder, good luck to you, and maybe you'll luck out. But yeah, it's gonna be a rough haul. So I'm gonna end this with two questions that both came from the same guy, a gentleman named Chris Bowman. He messages me every now and then. He says, if you could train with anyone from any era, who would it be? Easy. Arnold Schwarzenegger, 1975, when they were filming Pumping Iron. I think that was a very special, magical time because bodybuilding was still very small. It was like an elite little club. Almost every top bodybuilder in the world was in that movie, and they were all, you know, a lot of them either trained in Gold's Venice there, the original Gold's Gym on Main Street, or they would dedicate a month or two out of every year to come out from wherever they lived in the U.S. or outside the U.S. to stay in Venice, you know, or Santa Monica, stay in that area and train, because that was the gym and that was where everybody who was anybody really trained. It's obviously not like that anymore. So, but why Arnold? Obviously, I mean, it's Arnold. He was the greatest of his era. I still consider him the bodybuilder who did the most to put bodybuilding on the map, because he had this amazing personality. He went on tons of TV talk shows. He became obviously one of the most successful actors of all time. You know, he had so many hit movies. He was the action star of the 80s and the 90s. I mean, no one really came close to him. And he put bodybuilding on the map that way, in a way that none of the other guys could do, because, you know, you can only reach so many people through that are going to actually be interested in bodybuilding. But you're in a movie like Predator or Terminator or Conan, everybody sees that physique and they're like, wow. You know, how many guys over the years have told me their inspiration to become a bodybuilder came from seeing Arnold in those movies? So many guys, thousands of guys have told me that, and I'm sure, you know, for everyone that told me that, there was another 50,000 that felt the same way. And I used to watch those movies and just be like, wow, freaked out. Just, I gotta look like that. That's a man. I mean, just jacked. I mean, he looked like an action hero. Conan, who else could have played Conan? You know, nobody else, because he was a living comic book, a living cartoon character. So to be able to train with Arnold back in his prime, you know, trade set for set, and I'm not saying I could have kept up with him at my best, you know, in my prime, ages 30 to 35, but I would have given it my best, and it would have been a great time, because he had this love for training and this amazing personality. You see him Pumping Iron. Between sets, he's joking around. He was having a great time. He had a blast training. He loved it, and he was in his glory. He was in his element. Everybody loved him. So as much as I could have said, you know, I would have liked to train with Tom Platz or Mike Mentzer or Dorian in his prime or Ronnie in his prime. I actually did get to train with Ronnie in his prime. But yeah, I would have loved to train with all those guys, sure. But if I had to pick one, Arnold for sure. Last question is almost impossible to answer. Whose physique from any era do you think was best? I'm such a fan of the sport, and you know, I go back Started buying magazines in 1987, fall of 87. At that time, I was a huge fan of all the guys I saw in the magazines, which would have been Lee Haney, Mike Christian, Gary Stridham, Rich Gaspari, Lila Barada, Barry DeMay, Mike Quinn. There were so many guys back then that were, to me, Sean Ray was just coming out like a year later. I've seen so many great physiques over the years. Sean, Flex, Vince Taylor, you know, going back, I started once I got into the sport, I started looking back a little ways into the athletes who had preceded that generation and started looking more like Arnold and Sergio Oliva, Frank Zane, Robbie Robinson, Boyer Coe, so many of them. I could not sit here and tell you one guy, even someone as good as like Sean Ray or Flex Wheeler, was the greatest. I think they were all great in their own way. They were all inspirational to so many of us in their own way. Nobody ever had a perfect physique. Everyone had something you could point to, his clavicles or his calves, but it doesn't matter. I mean, all those great champions, I have nothing but respect and admiration for all of them because each one of them was amazing in his own way and inspired so many of us with the pictures in the magazines. You know, I'm sad to see print magazines in their twilight years because, you know, MD's the last of the print magazines for bodybuilding of the major magazines. Iron Man's gone. Flex is now a section inside Muscle and Fitness. Muscle Mag's been gone for a while. It's a bummer to me because I used to know when every magazine came out, each new issue, I would certain stores would only carry certain ones, and like for instance, I went to Emerson College the last 3 years of school. And I took the train in, and I would get off on the day every month that the magazines came out. I would get off at a stop before my actual stop to go to school. I would get off at Copley Square because that's where there was a big outdoor newsstand, and I could get the new issues of Flex and Muscle and Fitness and Muscular Development, and I had to have all the new issues the day they came out, and I was so excited to look through them for the first time. And first I would look at the pictures, then I would start reading the articles, and on the train home I'd be like just engrossed. Sometimes I think I would miss my stop. Yeah, I mean, those were great days. And I think we have great physiques now too. I'm not one of those people, I know I always talk about the 90s and the 80s and this and that, but I think there are still great physiques out there today too, for sure. There's always going to be great physiques. There's always going to be guys with great genetics who take up the sport. And as long as they don't get big pregnant bellies, as long as they keep their waistlines intact, they're going to have great physiques. And so I'm sorry I can't answer that one. I don't have a favorite physique of all time. I have a lot of favorite physiques, a lot. Probably I could rattle off 30, 40 guys easily that I think are all excellent. And, you know, I'm a fan of all of them. So that's going to wrap it up for this one. Appreciate you guys watching these. Get me questions however you want to. Facebook, Instagram, the MD forum, of course. And I will keep answering them. Please subscribe to the MD YouTube channel. And once again, thanks for watching. Talk to you later.